What's up, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I wanted to break down what's happening with NIO, Tesla, SPY, and the overall markets. I'm also going to talk about why tomorrow is going to be an interesting day as the market's going to be approaching some key supports and some very, very important moves that could be being made. But just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link. If you deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed 15 in total, not to mention 8.1% APY on uninvested cash. The offer ends very soon in just a couple of weeks, excuse me. Anyways, let's talk about what's happening with the market. So as far as NIO goes, we're trying to hold this support around this 4.5 area. If we try to base around here, there could be an attempt to get back up to about 4.7, but overall it's still in a very, very tight range. However, despite how tight NIO is, and despite the fact that we've been selling off for the last couple of days, it's still very, very minor. We're not making massive moves yet. I just want to say there's going to be a very big move coming as we approach the end of this year in the next couple of weeks. Once we have NIO Day and deliveries, I think it's going to be very, very important. NIO has been making these announcements about how they're opening more and more of these battery swap stations in Europe, and they're continuing to give themselves a bigger edge as time goes on, growing and growing and growing. I think this is going to be very important for their developments, and I think that as time goes on, that's going to be important. On top of this, there is some news coming out that NIO has noted that they're going to be starting their production for their third factory in the second half of next year with the ambition to potentially double their sales. That's what their goal is for 2025. So they want to double their sales, see amazing growth, and I think that that could help the share price. If they get those margins to improve, especially as interest rates start going down, that could really help things for them. That's what could really help the share price improve if they see an improvement in their profitability. But these are some nice ambitions, and I hope that they can come very close to meeting them, if not beat them. So we'll see how it ends up going with that. On top of this, Goldman Sachs has given NIO a sell rating. We're not really seeing anything else that's going on. The price-price ratio is still kind of in the flat. And then besides that, just let it to be known that we're still seeing some more volatility. Fridays are known for being green about 53% of the time, so they do tend to be more green for NIO historically. And then besides that, volume is currently at about 47 million, so very low volume so far. For the broader markets, the majority of stocks started off with a little bit of a dip, then they bounced very nicely after PPI came out. Then we started to dip again, and we ended up closing in the red. So we saw Amzn, Nvda, Google, Tesla all in the red. The majority of stocks were in the red, and they're continuing to see some interesting trends. Now, I just also want to call out that as far as the market is going, right now, I want to make it very clear that we had the PPI data, and the majority of the data was not too good. PPI was above expectations at 0.4%. Core was at 0.2% month over month, so that was okay. And then what was a little bit more bearish was this. We had PPI year over year at about 3%. This was above expectations, which is why the market sold off a bit. Despite the fact that Donald Trump even rang the bell, it wasn't really enough to cause the market to bounce. Now, for tomorrow, for the broader markets, SPY has a max pain of 597, and we'll have to see if we hold our key supports. We have a 1.43 put to call ratio, so it's not as crazy. We'll see what the market makers try to pull on this one. I also want to call out that we had Costco announcing their earnings. Unfortunately, they were very mixed. They beat on EPS with about $4.04 per share. That's above expectations. However, I also want to make it very clear that with their membership fees, we saw about $62.2 billion this quarter. That's missing the expectation of $66.5 billion. And then besides that, we didn't see anything else that was too crazy. The most pieces of data are a little bit lackluster. That's why the share price was flat for Costco. Right now, the fear and greed index is quite neutral, stuck in the middle. Momentum is still at greed. It's slowing down just a little bit. And the puts and call option ratio is flat. We're waiting for a big move, and so is the VIX. So the market's just kind of waiting, stuck in neutral. What do I see for NIO for tomorrow? Well, we formed a nice wick here, and we're trying to base right here around this 4.5 area. If that ends up being the case, we're looking for a move back up to about 4.71. So I think the odds do favor an attempt to get back up to about 4.7. I think there's a good chance we try to make that move. However, whether or not that ends up continuing is going to depend on other factors. I think that it's very important for us to look for about that 4.7 area. And I think there's a good chance that we do attempt to make that nice little bounce. So give this some time to develop, and we'll see what happens from here. For SPY is at the 602 to 603 range as our main support. We're trying to base at our support here. If we get back above 605, we're looking for a move back up to 607. And we're kind of stuck in the middle. I want to make it very clear that we're in a range right now. We have 609 as our main resistance, and we have this main support around 602. So we're bouncing and then rejecting back and forth for now. If we try to get back above 605.5, we could attempt to rebound. If we lose support down here around 603, we will turn a little bit more bearish. So we're going to be looking for a test of 604 for tomorrow. We're going to see if this holds or not. If not, we could be looking for a bounce off this 602 area. So I still think this could dip a little bit more to about 603 or so. But then I'm hoping we get a bounce. I'm hoping we get a bounce very close to 603 before we try to turn back up. If we lose this low, then yes, we will turn a little bit more bearish. So it all depends. That's why there's going to be a big test for tomorrow. I think the odds favor that this might see a little test of the 603s. It might touch the 603s. And we have to get a bounce and get back above 605 to turn back up. Otherwise, this is going to be a little bit more bearish. My guts tells me that we're going to be range bound going back and forth in this range. So we might dip a little bit more than bounce and just continue to go back and forth like this. So let's hope that that ends up being the case as long as 602 does not break. Same thing with ES. It looks a little bit more bearish. We might come back down to these lows to about 60.50. We'll have to see if we get a big bounce or not off of this. If we lose the support, we could be dipping all the way down to about the 60.20 area. So we'll just have to see how it goes. We've been dipping a bit, so we'll have to see how we end up bouncing. But overall, we're just stuck in this range. So look for a little bit more downside. There might be a little bit more downside coming for 60.50. And we'll see if we get that bounce or not. It's going to be a big test. If we don't bounce off that, we could be looking for a bigger pullback. For Nvda, we managed to push towards the end of the day to test 138. This now looks like it might be making its way back up to 140, so there could be a small bounce coming. For Bitcoin, we dipped all the way down to 99,500 to 20 EMA only to rebound. So we're going to be looking for an attempt to get back up to about 101,000. I see some potential in this to try to get to those levels. For Tesla, this looks a little bit weaker. We're going to be looking for a retest of the previous all-time high around this 414 area. We need to hold 414. Otherwise, this is going to be at risk of coming down to 404, then back down to about this 403 area near our 20 EMA. So we might be getting closer to 20 EMA if we end up losing 414. So we'll just have to see how it goes. For other factors out there, we also happen to have NQ. This is on a bit of a downtrend. We're going to be looking for a test of 21,619. If that fails us, we're looking for a dip all the way down to about 21,500. We could be dipping to the 21,500 area before we try to rebound, so we'll just have to see how it goes. And then for the QQQ, we're on a nice uptrend so far. We have 524 as our main support, and we're trying to rebound, so we're looking for essentially 530. If that breaks, I'm looking for 532. So let's see, as we are making higher highs and higher lows, we could be looking for 532, and we'll just have to see how it goes from here. For other factors out there, we have Aapl. Aapl is in like a head and shoulders like structure. We might be retesting 232.8. If that fails us, I'm sorry, not 232, 246 is actually the main level. I think I read the wrong number by mistake. 246 might be retested. We'll see if we bounce off this, but otherwise there's going to be that risk of downside. I want to call out the IWM is looking more bearish now. We've broken below this channel. So we had this channel we were respecting. We're starting to fail there. We got a bounce off 134. Otherwise, we're at risk of coming all the way down to 232, excuse me, and then 231. For coin, we're barely holding 312. We got to hold that to try to get back up to 320. Let's see if we hold 312. If that's the case, we should be trying to bounce. For Amazon, we're on a bit of a downtrend right here for the last couple of hours. We need to try to reclaim 230. Otherwise, there's a risk of 226 that might be coming down to test that. Meta is also dipping here. We might retest 622. We'll see if we bounce off that or not. If it doesn't bounce off that, it could be dipping to 607, but look for a test of 622. Microsoft might be dipping to about 445, and we'll have to see if we bounce off that or not. And then for Google, we're going to be dipping a little bit lower. We hit 192. If that does not hold us, we could be dipping for about 190, so give this more time. With that being said, the market's looking a little bit heavier, especially big tech. So that makes me presume there might be a little bit more downside coming, but we'll see if we bounce off our key support or not. If we don't, there's going to be a risk of bigger downside. So I'm going to be very honest with you guys about that, and we'll have to see how things go. As far as NIO goes, we're holding up very, very nicely. We're holding our supports very well, but despite the fact that we might try to rebound for 4.7, we'll have to see if we break that resistance or not. If we can't, this could be forming like a left shoulder ahead and maybe like a right shoulder where we kind of turn here. But look for a test of 4.7 for tomorrow. We'll see how it ends up reacting. We'll see the bigger moves once we get our big events like NIO Day and such. But until then, I thank you all so much for listening. So please have a good rest of your day and peace out.